Cumming's father Robert was from Stranraer, an ancient town at the head of Loch Ryan in the southwest of Scotland. In the mid-1800s, it was an important port and noted for fishing, farming, and a strong leather industry. The 1861 census gives information for number 6 George Street, the town's main street. Robert is listed as a 16-year-old pupil teacher. After this apprenticeship, and with a Queen's Scholarship, Robert enrolled at the Free Church of Scotland's Teacher Training College in Glasgow on the 28th of January 1863 and completed the 2-year course in 1 year on the 14th of December with a good pass. Robert then taught at the Free Church School in Glenluce, 10 miles to the east of Stranraer. Mary Cumming and Robert were married on the 18th of May 1865 in Stranraer. The 1851 census shows Mary living with her mother's brother John Byers and his family in Glenluce. Other and unconfirmed research suggests that Mary's mother died soon after her birth and that her father was a master mariner. Mary was a daughter of Andrew and Mary Cumming, and she was christened on the 21st of September 1843. The Stranraer section of the 1852 Pegaton-Slater Commercial Directory shows a Captain Cumming, who may have been Mary's father, and also a Captain Haswell. The captain's relationship with Robert's family is unknown. Soon after their marriage, Robert and Mary sailed for New Zealand aboard the 1,300-ton King of Italy. A position for Robert had been arranged at the St. Paul's Presbyterian Church School in Napier, which stands at the head of Dalton Street, next to the southeastern foot of the bluff. Robert and Mary's first child, John Andrew, was born on the 28th of February 1866 while they were living in Craven Street. Intense competition from at least 4 schools meant that by the end of 1866, the number of pupils at the St. Paul's School had dropped from 40 to less than 10, and therefore the school was closed. When the second child, Robert Byers, was born on the 17th of August 1867, the family were living in Carlisle Street and Robert was working as a storekeeper. Cumming was born in Oamaru on the 8th of June 1869, where Robert was once again teaching. Robert subsequently taught at various South Island schools and eventually the Kaikoura Suburban School for the years of 1884, 1885 and 1886. Robert and Mary's last child, Stuart, was born in 1885. There were then 8 boys and 1 girl in the family. Here's Robert about that time. And Mary. When Cumming left school, he worked in the Kaikoura Telegraph Office for 2.5 years, and then joined the commission agent and auctioneering business his father started in 1887. Following the death of his father early in 1892, and presumably the closure of the business, Cumming served an apprenticeship in the building trade and became foreman builder for Mr. W. Cook, during which time he superintended the construction of the Church of England and some other major buildings in Kaikoura. We travel back in time now to 1845 to the Isle of Wight, where on the 12th of May Richard Woodford, also a schoolmaster, and Anne Shearman were married in the Brightstone Parish Church. Anne was born on the Isle of Ely and was a child of John and Sarah Shearman. She was christened on the 10th of October 1811 in the parish church of Ely St. Mary. Sarah Elizabeth was Richard and Anne's 3rd surviving child and was born on the 30th of June 1850. A few months later, the family sailed for Littleton on board the Randolph, one of the now famous first 4 ships, where they arrived on the 16th of December. Early in 1852, Richard Woodford established the Christchurch section of the Ancient Order of Foresters, an association established originally in England in 1834 to secure for its members their wives and other dependents weekly allowances during sickness and other infirmity. And now let's turn the clock back again, this time to 1826, and we visit Ockley in Surrey, where the Rapley family had lived for generations. The old family home stands by the village green, and the original section dates back to the late 16th century. Ockley is mentioned in the 1088 Domesday Book and stands on part of a Roman road leading to London from the south coast. On the 3rd of December 1826, William Rapley and Mary Hersey were married in the village church. Mary was from Ruspa in Sussex and of Jewish origin. She is said to have been petite, dark, and vivacious. Joseph Jesse Rapley, their 12th child, was christened in Ockley on the 6th of August 1848. James, their eldest son, came to New Zealand in 1846 with the 65th Regiment, and perhaps as a result of his encouragement, William and Mary, with their other 12 children, emigrated in 1853. The William Rapley family settled in Papanui near Christchurch and farmed land now occupied by the Sanitarium Health Food Company. In January 1854, Richard Woodford and a Mr. W. J. Stevens leased some land on the banks of the Avon and flour mill, but the partnership with Mr. Stevens didn't last long. In 1855, Richard bought a rural section of land in the Kaipoi, where in 1857 he built a flour mill on the Ohaka stream near its junction with the Waimakariri River. Richard was a member of the Canterbury Provincial Council, representing the Avon constituency from November 1857 until March 1858, a time, it is said, when some of their best acts were framed. Richard went on to build a steam-powered flour mill in 1867 in Charles Street, Kaipoi, and for many years was a borough councillor. In 1866, the 18-year-old Joseph Jesse Rapley joined the Methodist Church. He and Sarah Elizabeth Woodford were married early in 1874, and their second child, Ethel Mildred, was born in 1876. In 1877, Joseph took up services in the home mission field and was subsequently based in various Canterbury towns. Here's Ethel Mildred in about 1885, standing by her older sister Eva Gertrude, and with one of her brothers, either Claude or Hedley, on the left, with Hilda Blanche holding a book. Richard Woodford died on the 21st of April 1886, aged 78, and his body is buried in the Anglican Church Cemetery, Vickery Street, Kaipoi. Anne died in 1891, and her unmarked grave lies next to Richard's. Joseph's parents, William and Mary, also died in 1886, within months of each other, and their bodies are buried in the cemetery of St. Paul's Church, Papanui. James died the following year, and his grave is also at St. Paul's. In 1899, Joseph's home mission work was nearing its completion in Amberley, and Ethel Mildred was a young woman. On the 29th of November 1899, Cumming and Ethel were married in Amberley and settled into the home Cumming had built in Torquay Street, Kaikoura, prior to their marriage. Ethel and Cumming's first child, Mary Millicent, was born on the 28th of September 1900. The following year, Cumming was elected to the Kaikoura County Council as member for the Peninsula riding. Claude Cumming was born on the 1st of July 1903. He was almost certainly named after Ethel's brother, Claude Woodford Rapley, who had been drowned in 1902 at the Chatham Islands while teaching there. In 1903, Cumming established his own business, going on to build premises for the Bank of New Zealand and the town school. Cumming chaired the committee formed for the purpose of establishing a town board, was a member of the town school committee, and a long-standing oddfellow. Here's Mary Millicent and Claude Cumming in about 1906. And again a few years later. On the 21st of April 1909, the twins Mavis Sarah and Ronald Douglas were born, and here they are about 9 months later. Earlier in 1909, Cumming had travelled to the North Island, probably to investigate its more rapidly growing economy and visit a number of his brothers living and working here. While in Fielding to see Robert, Douglas and Ferguson, Cumming met Margaret Helen Reed, and a daughter, Hope Cumming, was born on the 3rd of November 1909 in Wanganui. It would seem that by this time Cumming had already started a business in Waipakarau, and Ethel and her children moved to Hawke's Bay later in 1909 or early in 1910. Ethel's father, Joseph Rapley, died in 1911 after more than 40 years of service with the Methodist Church, much of which time was spent as a home missionary based in various Canterbury towns. The funeral service was crowded with friends, many having travelled long distances to be there. By 1911, Cumming had completed Torquay Villa in Tavistock Road, Waipakarau, and then, combined with his normal commercial work, he built Eomarama in Porongahau Road, completing it in 1915. Cumming was keen to try his hand at farming, and so towards the end of the First World War, he took up some land near Potararoo. Here's Mary and Claude at about that time. Robert's widow Mary died in 1918, and the bodies of Robert and Mary share a grave overlooking Kaikoura and the sea. Cumming's land turned out to be unproductive, and so the family quickly moved on to the rapidly developing Waikato district. Cumming built a family home in 1919 at 53, now 119 Albert Street, Hamilton East, from where, once again, he conducted a building and joinery business. Soon, Mary and Claude were young adults, and Ron and Mavis were growing up too. Ethel's mother, Sarah Elizabeth, maintained an interest in the Canterbury Early Settlers Association, and here she is in 1925 for the 75th anniversary parade. Sarah Elizabeth is in the rear seat and closest to the camera. She died on the 10th of December 1928, and her body is buried with Joseph's at the Linwood Cemetery, Christchurch. Here's Mavis at the start of her adult life in 1930. Hope Cumming Reed as a young woman, and Ron in 1945 after service in the Second World War. Cumming's last major job was to build a home for Mary and her husband Nawaka in Takahiwai in 1940. And here he is in 1941 with one of Mavis's daughters, Monica. Ethel Mildred died in 1946, and her body rests in the Hamilton East Lawn Cemetery. Cumming spent a fair proportion of his remaining years with Mary and Nawaka and died in 1960. On the 23rd of April 1994, and at the instigation of Grant Pirihi, Mary and Nawaka's son, a new headstone for Cumming's grave was dedicated. Mavis, by that time, was Cumming's only living child, was 2 days into her 86th year. Mavis Sarah died on the 1st of December 1994.